for the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, sir. You can put your hand down and be seated. Please lean into the microphone so we can hear you and state your full name and spell your last name.
Michael Morrison, Morrison.
Good morning, Mr. Morrison. How are you?
Good morning, sir.
How are you employed, sir?
I'm sorry?
How are you employed? Are you working?
Yes, sir.
What do you do?
I am a paving crew leader for the city of Tamarack.
Okay. I'd like to call your attention to February the 11th, 2017. How were you employed on that date?
I owned a business, Sunrise Tactical Supply.
Okay. And how long had you owned Sunrise Tactical Supply?
I believe we opened in 2013.
Okay. And what type of things would you sell at Sunrise Tactical Supply?
We were a licensed firearms dealer, ammunition, holsters. We did classes, concealed weapons classes, related to the trade.
Okay. And you started the business in 2013?
Correct.
Okay. When you sell a firearm, what is the procedure that's used?
Procedure is the customer who wants to purchase needs to fill out a Form 4473. Once that's completed, a background check is then submitted. The information from that form is submitted to the state, and upon an approved control number coming back from the state, the firearm is either released the same day to a person with a concealed weapons permit, or there is a 5 business day wait without the concealed weapons permit, which does not include weekends and holidays.
Okay. And where was Sunrise Tactical located?
7600 Wiles Road.
Okay. And a 4473, that's a federal form?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And were you the custodian of records of that form?
Yes, sir.
At Sunrise Tactical? Okay, Mr. Morrison, I want to show you now State's Exhibit marked 19V for identification, sir. And if you would look at that and see if you recognize it.
This is Mr. Cruz's 4473.
Okay. And were you present when it was filled out?
Yes, I was, sir.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Your Honor, at this time, I'd like to offer State's Exhibit 19V. And I showed it to Mr. Wheeler.
Is there any objection?
No, ma'am.
State's Exhibit 19B, like Victor, will be received as State's 335. $355, excuse me, thank you. 355.
Can you see this okay, Mr. Morrison?
Yes, sir.
On your screen? So, and you were present for this sale, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, so how was this form completed? Could you run through with us how it's done?
Person comes in, picks out their selection. Once the selection is made, the customer is given a 4473 to fill out.
Okay.
It's to have their name, their current address. Then there's several questions that have to be answered. Once they've completed their portion of it, it is signed stating that the information they provided is true and accurate.
Okay. So in State's Exhibit 355, which is the 4437 form, the Nikolas Jacob Cruz, that's filled out by him, right? The purchaser, Nikolas Jacob Cruz, correct?
Yes, sir.
And he fills out the address and the
Yes, sir.
city and the county, right?
Yes, sir.
And place of birth, that's his writing,
Yes, sir.
correct? And he fills out the height, 5'7", weight, 128 pounds, right?
Correct?
Male, and his date of birth, right?
Yes, sir.
And someone who is going to purchase a weapon, in this case a rifle, have to be 18 or over, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then, Mr. Morrison, let me see if I'm so bad at this. These questions here, the wheel. All right, that's not too bad. So, are you the actual transferee buyer of the firearm listed on the form? If you're not the actual transfer buyer, you are acquiring the firearm on behalf of another person. If you are not the actual transferee buyer, the licensee cannot transfer the firearm to you. Exception if you are picking up a repaired firearm for another person and you are not required to answer 11A and may proceed to question 11B. See instructions for question 11A. Who fills out? Yes.
Yes.
He does, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are you under indictment or information in any courts for a felony or any other crimes for which the judge could imprison you for more than 1 year? See instructions for question 11B. The check mark, no, he does that.
Correct.
Right? Okay. Have you ever been convicted of a felony, convicted in any court of a felony or any other crime for which the judge could have you imprisoned you for more than 1 year, even if you received a shorter sentence, including probation? See instructions for question 11C. He writes no, correct?
Correct.
And that's his check mark, correct?
Yes, sir.
Are you a fugitive from justice? See instructions for question 11D. He writes no, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Are you an unlawful user of or addicted to marijuana or any depressant, stimulant, narcotic drug, or any other controlled substance? Warning. The use or possession of marijuana remains unlawful under federal law, regardless of whether it has been legalized or decriminalized for medicinal or recreational purposes in the state where you reside. And he checks no, correct?
Yes,
That's
sir.
his check mark? Okay. Have you ever been adjudicated as a mental defective, or have you ever been committed to a mental institution? See instruction for question 11F. He checks no, correct?
Correct.
That's his check mark? Okay. Have you ever been discharged from the armed forces under dishonorable conditions? His check mark, no, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are you subject to a court order restraining you from harassing, stalking, or threatening your child or an intimate partner or a child of such partner? See instructions for question 11H. He check marks no, correct? That's his check mark?
Correct,
Okay.
sir.
Have you ever been convicted in any court of a misdemeanor crime or domestic violence? See instructions for question 11I. That's his check mark, right?
Correct, no.
12, country of citizenship, United States of America. That's his check mark, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then 12B, have you ever renounced your United States citizenship? His check mark, no, correct, Mr. Morrison?
Correct.
Okay. Are you an alien illegally or unlawfully in the United States? Check mark, his check mark, no, correct?
Correct.
All right. Are you an alien who has been admitted to the United States under a non-immigrant visa? And he's checked no, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then if yes, you fall within any of the exceptions stated in the instructions, and he puts a check mark under NA, not applicable, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And that's the first page, correct?
Yes, sir. Correct.
Okay. And he fills that out himself.
Yes.
Okay. And then the second page. it says signature right there, and the date, 2/11/2017. Can you see that, or see the top line? Number 14, transferee, buyer signature?
Yeah, yes,
Okay, and the date, the certification date, that's the date that he comes in to make the purchase?
yes, sir,
So February the 11th, 2017, correct?
correct.
And then it says type of firearm, long gun, who makes that check?
That is made by the employee of the store, the clerk.
Okay, and when you were working that day, did you have an employee working with you?
Yes, sir.
And what's that person's name?
David Martinez.
Okay, and line 13, identification, is that Mr. Martinez's handwriting?
Yes, sir.
And then number or identification, what's that?
That is the license, that's the number on the driver's license or ID from the state.
Okay. And the expiration date, 9/24/205, right?
Correct.
So you check identification, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And in that, your form, you have this identification, right?
Yes, sir.
And that is a Florida identification card, right?
Yes, sir.
Nikolas Jacob Cruz, his address in Parkland, and that date of birth, and that matches what he had put on the 4473 form, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you demand identification, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So the third page, what's this?
The signature line on the third page is what needs to be signed upon the release of the firearm.
Okay. And the description at 24, the manufacturer, importer, S&W, what's that stand for?
Smith & Wesson
And M&P Sport 2,
is the model of the rifle.
TF 16214,
Serial number.
okay. And type rifle.
Yes, sir.
And then the caliber 5.56-223, what's that mean?
Yes, sir. That's the caliber that the rifle is rated to shoot.
Okay. And of course, it has Sunrise Tactical and your address on there, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then you recognize Mr. Martinez's signature?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so this, the transfer was 2/18 of 2017, right?
Yes, sir.
And that you explained to us before, the 5-day, has to be 5-day waiting period if you don't have a concealed weapons permit,
Correct,
correct?
excluding weekends and holidays.
Okay. And part of this form is your sales slip. And do you recognize
Yes, sir.
that? Okay. You see when it says paid, whose handwriting that is?
That's mine.
Okay. And the price of the weapon was $618.74?
Correct.
Okay. So before, what's the procedure for when you meet someone who comes in to the store to buy a gun? What do you do? And what did you do in this case during the sale? Do you have any procedures you follow?
Every customer is engaged in conversation. We look for any red flags, any signs that why the sale should not happen. If for any reason anyone was uncomfortable with anything about the sale did not happen, period.
Okay. And did you engage that conversation with Nikolas Cruz?
I had a brief conversation, I believe, on pickup, as I stated in my deposition. I came out and asked him, what are you going to do with the rifle? And the reply was, I go shooting with my friends on the weekends. I just want my own stuff.
Okay. All right. Let me show you now State's Exhibit 270. And it's made safe, Mr. Morrison. So, do you recognize what this is?
That is the M&P Sport rifle.
Okay. And do you know where the serial number is?
It would be on probably the opposite side of the magazine well,
Okay.
or on the receiver by the trigger, right here on the bottom.
Okay. TF 16214, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is the rifle you sold Nikolas Cruz, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. When you sold this gun, were there any additions made? In other words,
No, sir, there was nothing on the rifle when it left the store.
Okay. So this weapon here has a bipod,
Yes, sir.
right? Right?
Correct.
Is that on the weapon?
No, sir.
Okay. And it has, well, why don't you tell us what else it has that wasn't sold with?
It did not have the bipod. It did not have the vert grip. The sight may have been in the box because there was no rear sight on it. It's a standard flat top receiver, and there was no sling.
Okay. All right. Mr. Morrison, thank you very much. Your Honor, I have no further questions of Mr. Morrison.
Mr. Benz, do you have any questions?
Yes, ma'am. That's it.
Oh, sure, I'm sorry.
Mr. Morrison, good morning.
Warning.
You mentioned on direct that an 18-year-old can walk into the store and purchase a firearm. Is that accurate?
At that particular time, yes.
Is it accurate now?
No, sir.
What is it now?
It's 21.
Irrelevant.
Overruled.
You can answer the question, sir.
21.
You have to be 21 years old to purchase a firearm,
Yes, sir.
regardless if it's a small handgun or a high-velocity rifle.
Correct.
I'm not sure if you can see what I'm looking at here. You see that?
No, sir.
Is it working?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, sir. So who can't buy a firearm?
Pardon me?
Who can't buy a firearm?
Convicted felon.
Okay. Anyone else?
Person who is using marijuana medically. Anyone domestic violence. There's a when you do the background check, the information is submitted to the state. So the state determines that control number, whether it's an approval or not.
All right. And you mentioned there's an additional, I guess, hedge that the person would have to jump over. When they walk into your store, you would have this interaction with them, right?
Yes, sir.
The salesperson, according to the form here, was your employee David Martinez. Is that correct?
Correct.
Would he be the person interacting with Mr. Cruz?
We both were. We both engaged. It was busy, and we both at some point or another engage with customers.
Okay.
So it's not uncommon for two of us to engage with one customer.
Well, you mentioned that you had this conversation with him upon pickup of the weapon. That's after the 5-day waiting period, correct?
Correct.
So is it safe to assume that Mr. Martinez helped them in the initial selection of the firearm?
Yes.
Okay. And he would have that interaction, that initial interaction with them?
Yes, sir.
Judge, can I have a second?
Sure.
Nothing further. Thanks, Judge.
Okay, is there anything else, Dave?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. You're excused.
Thank you, Your Honor.